You know that Hallmark movie version of winter? The hot cocoa, the cute scarves, the snow falling gently like you're living in a snow globe? Yeah, forget that. Burn the DVD. Today, we are visiting 7 American towns where winter isn't a season. It's a survival test. We're talking about places where the air hurts your face. Places where the snow doesn't just fall, it attacks you and buries your car until April. You ever see a massive house on Watertown with a rent of $900 a month and thought, wow, what a deal? No, you didn't find a deal. You walked into a trap. You're about to find out why the rent is cheap, but the heating bill costs more than a Tesla. Welcome to the frozen hellscapes. Let's see who's freezing the fastest. Subscribe to the channel, otherwise you may accidentally move to one of these cities from the list. At number 7, Fargo, North Dakota. Fargo in winter feels like living inside a freezer that has unresolved anger issues. Temperatures routinely drop below zero, and with wind chill, it casually feels like -30. Not dramatic cold, weaponized cold. Snowfall averages around 50 inches a year, just enough to make you forget what pavement looks like without ever delivering the mercy of an apocalypse reset. Rent sits around $100 to $2,300, which sounds affordable until your heating bill shows up like a ransom demand. Jobs exist, healthcare, education, logistics, but the weather does not care where you work or how important your meeting is. Here's the trap. Fargo is marketed as livable. That's Midwestern code for emotionally exhausting. The cold isn't shocking, it's constant. It doesn't ruin one bad day, it slowly rewires how you live. You don't go places anymore, you plan heat-to-heat missions. You don't think about weekends, you think about whether your car will start. Snow doesn't ruin your mood, it replaces it. Neutral becomes the default. Picture the morning. It's 7:12 a.m. The sky is flat gray metal, snow squeaks under your boots because it's too cold to crunch. Your car starts with a sound that says, I didn't have to do that for you. The wind finds the one weak spot in your jacket and claims it immediately. You drive past endless frozen fields that feel infinite because they might as well be. You don't feel brave, you feel evaluated. Psychologically, Fargo doesn't punch you in the face. It drains you slowly. Social plans turn into weather negotiations. Cabin fever sneaks in quietly. One day you realize you're proud not because you're thriving, but because you endured another week. Fargo doesn't destroy you, it makes you quieter. And if this already sounds rough, here's the bad news. This was the easiest city on the list. Next up is a place where winter doesn't just arrive. It shows up backed by a lake and bad intentions. At number 6, Marquette, Michigan. Perched on the edge of Lake Superior like a town that forgot it could leave, Marquette gets absolutely hammered by lake-effect snow. We're talking 120 to 150 inches a year, sometimes more, dumped with the casual cruelty of a system that knows you'll have to shovel it yourself. Winter temperatures hang in the teens, regularly drop below zero, and the lake wind cuts straight through layers, confidence, and any remaining joy. Rent averages around $1,000 to $1,300 if you can even find a place, wages are modest, and winter heating costs quietly drain your bank account while smiling at you. Jobs exist, healthcare, education, tourism, yes, tourism, in a town where winter feels like a natural disaster with a schedule. Here's the psychological trick Marquette plays. It looks charming. That's the lie. Brick buildings, waterfront views, snow-covered trees, it all screams cozy, which is just marketing language for you're going to suffer beautifully. Snow here isn't a storm, it's infrastructure. Shoveling isn't exercise, it's daily maintenance required to re-enter society. And the darkness? By January, daylight feels like a rumor. The sun shows up briefly, does nothing, and leaves. Imagine this. It's 4:30 p.m., but it looks like midnight. Snow is blowing sideways off Lake Superior, like it has personal beef with you. Your boots are wet again. Your jacket smells permanently damp. The roads are a blur of ice, salt, and faith. You stop at a grocery store not because you need groceries, but because it's warm and has lighting. Driving home, whiteout conditions erase the horizon, and you don't panic. You've already accepted this is normal now. Mentally, Marquette isolates you in slow motion. It's a small town, the winter is endless, and cabin fever doesn't knock. It signs a lease. Social circles shrink. Motivation hibernates. You stop counting weeks and start counting storms. There's pride here, but it's quiet, hardened pride. The kind that comes from enduring, not enjoying. Marquette doesn't scream at you. It buries you gently, under snow and silence until you stop fighting it. And don't get comfortable, seriously. Because next up is a place where winter isn't just heavy. It's borderline international, brutally bureaucratic, and waiting right on the edge of the map. At number 5, Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Locals call it the Sioux, which sounds friendly until you realize it sits wedged between Lake Superior and Lake Huron, like a weather experiment that went too far. Winter temperatures regularly drop below zero, wind chills hit the -20s, and snow piles up fast, roughly 120 inches a year, delivered sideways. Ice storms aren't rare, they're seasonal decorations. Rent averages around $900 to $1,200, which feels affordable until you realize wages are low, job options are thin, and winter utilities quietly double your monthly stress. Employment leans manufacturing, healthcare, and government work, steady, but not exactly flexible when roads disappear. Here's what makes the Sioux different. Isolation. This isn't a place you pass through in winter. It's a place you're stuck. The border, the bridges, the lakes, the snow, everything funnels you into staying put. Winter here isn't just weather, it's paperwork, delays, closures. Due to conditions, becomes the soundtrack of your life. You don't feel adventurous living here. You feel audited by geography. Imagine this scene. It's morning, technically. The sky is white, the ground is white, the road is white. Depth perception is a luxury item. Ice coats the sidewalks like a warning label. You scrape your windshield for the 3rd time this week while lake wind slaps your face raw. Downtown feels quiet, not peaceful, suspended. Stores open late, close early, and no one questions it. Driving feels optional but necessary, like a bad relationship you can't quit. Psychologically, Sault Ste. Marie messes with your sense of scale. The world feels smaller. Days blur together. You start measuring time by border wait times, storm systems, and whether the bridge is open. Seasonal depression hits hard here. Long nights, heavy snow, and a social scene that hibernates without telling you. People are tough, yes, but it's the toughness of those who learned not to complain because it wouldn't change anything. The Sioux doesn't attack you. It contains you. At number 4, Watertown, New York. Parked downwind of Lake Ontario like it lost a bet, Watertown is one of America's most reliable recipients of lake effect punishment. Snowfall regularly hits 100 to 120 inches a year, sometimes more when the lake decides you've had too much hope. Temperatures hover in the teens and single digits, with wind chills that make exposed skin a short-term investment. Rent averages around $900 to $1,200, cheap on paper, until you factor in heating, car maintenance, and the emotional tax of living somewhere winter never shuts up. Jobs revolve around Fort Drum, healthcare, and retail. Stable, yes. Inspiring? No. Here's the real issue with Watertown: monotony. This isn't cinematic suffering, it's repetitive. Snowstorms don't feel dangerous, they feel scheduled. Every few days, another blanket of white erases your progress. You shovel, it snows. You clear the car, it refreezes. Winter here isn't chaos, it's routine, and that's somehow worse. There's no adrenaline, just obligation. Imagine this. It's Tuesday, or Thursday. It doesn't matter. The sky is low and heavy, like it's pressing down on the town. Snow falls steadily, not aggressively, just enough to ruin traction and motivation. You leave work in darkness, drive past strip malls half buried in snowbanks taller than your hood, and realize you haven't seen the sun properly in weeks. The radio talks about another system coming. You don't react, you already knew. Mentally, Watertown grinds people down. The lack of variety, the endless gray, the feeling that winter is on a loop with no skip button. Seasonal depression thrives here, quietly. Social lives shrink indoors. Energy drops. People don't complain much. They just get flat. Watertown doesn't scare you. It numbs you, slowly, thoroughly. And don't think the worst is behind us. Because next up is a place that doesn't just endure winter. It advertises it, measures it, and dares you to complain. If you're still watching, like the video, subscribe, and comment. What breaks you faster, brutal storms or endless ones? At number 3, International Falls, Minnesota, proudly known as the icebox of the nation. And no, that's not marketing. That's a diagnosis. Temperatures here routinely drop to 20-degree fours, with wind chills that laugh their way past 40-degree four. Snowfall averages around 70 inches, but snow isn't even the headline. The cold is. This is air that hurts. Rent sits around $800 to $2,100, which sounds cheap until you realize wages are limited, job options are thin, and heating costs feel like you're fueling a small power plant. Employment revolves around manufacturing, healthcare, border services, and whatever still functions at these temperatures. Here's the cruel part. International Falls doesn't fluctuate. It commits. Winter arrives early, stays late, and never pretends otherwise. There's no warm spell, there's no break. Cold here isn't weather, it's policy. Cars are plugged in overnight like medical equipment. Skin exposure is calculated. You don't check the forecast for curiosity, you check it for survival. Picture this. It's morning, allegedly. The sun is out, but it's decorative. Your breath crystallizes instantly. Metal burns to the touch. The snow squeaks underfoot like styrofoam because physics is barely holding together. You warm your car for 20 minutes and it still feels offended. The town is quiet, not asleep, just conserving energy. Everyone moves with purpose. No one lingers. Lingering is how you lose feeling in your face. Psychologically, International Falls does something different. It hardens people. Emotions freeze the same way lakes do, slowly, completely. Social life compresses. Small talk disappears. You become efficient, not expressive. There's pride here, but it's rugged and silent, earned by enduring conditions most people only read about. This town doesn't exhaust you like Watertown or smother you like Marquette. It reprograms you. At number 2, Grand Forks, North Dakota. Sitting flat in the Red River Valley like a bullseye for Arctic air, Grand Forks regularly plunges into 15-degree to 25-degree with wind chills blasting past, 40-degree for like that's perfectly reasonable. Snowfall averages around 55 inches, but don't let that fool you. The real enemy here is wind. There's nothing to block it, no hills, no trees. Just open land that turns every cold front into a personal attack. Rent ranges from about $1,000 to $2,300. Jobs revolve around the university, healthcare, and agriculture, and winter heating bills arrive with zero empathy. Here's what makes Grand Forks brutal in a special way. Exposure. Fargo at least pretends to shelter you. Grand Forks doesn't bother. The cold comes straight at you, uninterrupted, like it's late for something. Walking a single block feels longer than it should. Waiting for your car to warm up feels like a test of loyalty. You don't fight winter here. You submit to it and hope it finishes quickly. Imagine this. It's mid-morning, but the light is harsh and empty. The wind screams across the valley, stealing your breath the moment you step outside. Snow drifts across the road even though it hasn't snowed recently. Leftovers from storms past, still haunting you. Your face goes numb before your thoughts do. You keep your head down, not out of fear, but efficiency. The landscape is so flat it feels infinite, and somehow that makes the cold feel bigger. Psychologically, Grand Forks messes with your sense of momentum. Everything slows down. Progress feels heavier. Winter fatigue sets in early and stays late. People here are resilient, but there's a sharp edge to it. A constant awareness that comfort is temporary, and the environment is always winning. Grand Forks doesn't isolate you like the Sioux or harden you like International Falls. It confronts you every single day with how small you are. And now there's only one left. One place where winter doesn't just dominate life, it defines it. The coldest, longest, most unforgiving finale on this list is coming up next. At number 1, Caribou, Maine. Way up in Aroostook County, closer to Canada than Comfort, Caribou absorbs winter like a sponge. Temperatures regularly drop below 10 degrees, wind chills push toward 30 degrees, and snow stacks up around 110 to 130 inches a year. Nor'easters, lake effect bands, and Arctic blasts all seem to agree this town deserves their full attention. Rent averages a modest $700 to $1,000, but wages are limited, job options are thin, and heating costs feel like you're financing the weather itself. Work centers on healthcare, education, agriculture, and whatever survives the freeze. Here's why Caribou is number 1. Isolation layered on isolation. This isn't just cold, it's far. Far from major cities, far from quick escapes, far from the idea that winter will end soon. Storms shut things down completely. Roads disappear, supplies take longer. Silence stretches. Winter doesn't interrupt life here, it is life. You don't wait for spring, you negotiate with winter until it loosens its grip. Picture this. It's morning, maybe. The sky is pale and endless. Snowbanks tower over streets like frozen walls. Your house creaks as temperatures drop overnight. You step outside and the cold hits instantly, not aggressively, but thoroughly, like it's sealing you in. The town moves slowly, deliberately. No rush, no chaos. Just survival routines executed with quiet precision. You don't feel scared, you feel small. Mentally, Caribou reshapes people. Patience becomes instinct. Loneliness becomes familiar. You learn to sit with silence for long stretches without panicking. Seasonal depression isn't a phase here. It's something you actively manage. The people who stay aren't naive. They're adapted. Caribou doesn't challenge you to beat winter. It teaches you that you won't. And that's the list. 7 places where winter 2025 didn't just show up, it dominated. If you're watching this from somewhere warm, appreciate it. If you're watching this from one of these towns, respect. If you made it to the end, like the video, subscribe, and drop a comment. Which city broke you, or which one would?